Tressed to Kill is amazing. This is the 13th episode of the 12th season of CSI, and this is my kind of story. That's not to say I don't like stories that are quite different to this, but I prefer crime stories, true crime, anything like that, where it's quite unique and a little bit mysterious. And that's definitely what we have here. And this is all about somebody who initially goes around cutting the hair of women without them knowing, of course. And then things escalate. And I'll go into a bit more detail in a moment, but I won't spoil what was going on. And then I will later on give a spoiler and explain my thoughts on the ending. I thought I'd worked it out. And I noted it down because I was that confident. At 36 minutes in, I thought, I've got it. I know who it is. I know what their motive is. I was wrong. I was so confident. I don't think I've worked it out in a single CSI yet. But I am only 13 episodes in. So I'll very briefly sum up my thoughts. Then I'll go into a bit more detail about how this crime escalated and what was actually happening. And then with a spoiler warning, I'll reveal the outcome of the last 5-10 minutes. It's a great episode. It's occasionally gory, but not that much. I love when they're graphic and gory, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. CSI is amazing at giving us realistic detail. And we definitely get a good amount of that. With regards to the suspense, it is very suspenseful. The opening scene was incredibly dramatic, and I was just completely on edge from the beginning, completely unsure of what was going to happen. And then when it came to the suspects, we had more victims than I think pretty much any other episode that I've seen. I don't know if that's true, but that's how it felt. And then we had quite a few suspects as well, some of which I thought, no, it's not you. Some of which I was thinking, yeah, maybe it could be. And then, as I said, at one point, I made my decision. And I was so confident because I thought the motive was fantastic. But I was wrong. But I'll get to that in a little bit. So, brilliant episode, definitely worth watching. So I'll now explain a little bit about what the crime actually is and what's happening, and the calling card and a couple of other things. But again, I won't actually say who is responsible. So what this person is doing is taking the hair from these victims, and then one by one, these women start to turn up dead. And they're not just dead, but this person is dressing the victims up in vintage clothing and is doing something with their hair. I'll keep it vague, but they're doing something with the hair, and they're doing their makeup, and they're doing something to the eyes. And I'm not a fan of eyes. I've mentioned this before as well. I can handle pretty much anything when it comes to gore and graphic content, but I can't when it comes to eyes and veins, mostly needles. They're my two weak spots, and the eyes in this are fantastic. So well done. And I found it to be kind of chilling. The music was a lovely touch, because when this person would do this, and then they'd leave the scene, they'd leave the victim to be found, they'd put the music on. And we had some really interesting songs, and it just made the crime scenes so much more eerie. And I was really impressed with that, and I thought it worked very well. So everything was fabulous. And as I said, the suspense was brilliant. The pacing was great. It got off to an amazing start. The scene at the beginning with the elevator. I'll be honest, it didn't go the way I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit more bloodthirsty to begin with, but that's not to say it was slow, because I feel like everything moved forward at a really steady pace, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I will now explain. I still won't say who was responsible for it. I will say I wasn't shocked, but I wasn't impressed either. I wasn't disappointed by who it was, but I just didn't get that sense of, oh my goodness, how could it be this person? It made sense, everything worked out, the boxes were ticked in terms of believability and everything, but I never got that, oh my goodness, are you kidding me moment. But that being said, I was still wrong, and the person I thought it was, so I won't say who it was, but by telling you who I thought it was, that will rule somebody out. And I'm going to sound like a bit of an idiot, because the more I think about it, the more I realise it probably, well, it's unlikely. Not impossible, but hear me out. So at 36 minutes in, I'm telling you the time so you can understand what was happening at the scene when I came to this wrong conclusion. I decided it was Lucinda. And the more I think about it, yeah, I realise it's very, very unlikely, given her health particularly. But my thinking is that she had lost her looks because she'd lost her hair. Her hair was clearly important to her. And she was getting revenge on those who still had their looks and turning them into versions of herself when she was youthful. In my mind, that made perfect sense, and I was so sure of it. I thought that's a brilliant motive. It's not predictable. I think we wouldn't have seen it coming immediately, and I was just so happy with my decision, and I was wrong. But I still think that would have been really cool. But I realise, yeah, very unlikely. But that's who I thought it was, and it's rare that I come to such a definite decision with CSI. An incorrect decision, but nevertheless. But I don't mind being wrong. I never mind being wrong with these because I think the element of surprise is great. As I said, although I was kind of surprised by who it was, I wasn't exactly excited by it or that moved by it, but it was fine. It wasn't too bad. And ultimately, I thought this was a pretty brilliant episode. Tressed to Kill is definitely one that I enjoyed.